Hey guys, as promised, I am here with a review for I Am Number 4 by Pittacus Lore, kind of. I Am Number 4 is a young adult science fiction novel written by James Frey and Joby Hughes under the pseudonym Pittacus Lore in the year 2010. It was adapted into a movie starring Alex Pettyfer, Diana Agron, Teresa Palmer, and Timothy Oliphant. A boy named John, or Number 4, who's from a faraway distant planet called Lorien, and pretty much what happened was a race called the Mogadorians came and killed everybody on this planet except for these mysterious 9 children who were sent to Earth to continue the race and be safe until they could return at a later date and repopulate the planet. So now that John, Number 4, is growing up, he's starting to want to live a normal life as a teenager. And why not? Because he looks just like everybody else. The only difference is he's stronger, faster, smarter, and has awesome cool abilities. So what happens when the Mogadorians threaten his new life and possible love and all the relationships that he's made in his new town of Paradise, Ohio? So, for the good, I thought this book was really good in terms of world building, I'll get back to that in a second, and relationships. I really love the relationships that were developed in this book. So, the relationships are great. I was completely invested in the relationships between John and the other characters in the book. Usually, the most important relationship is the relationship between the character and his love interest. But here, it was more than just him and his love interest. It was him and his new best friend that I really cared about. It was him and his father figure, Henry, or Henri, or whatever. I really enjoyed those relationships because they felt real. You could tell that John really cared about them, always knew the dynamic of the relationship, not just with, his love interest or his father figure. Even the bully at school, you knew where he stood with him depending on what part of the book it was. It just really developed really well, and I really enjoyed that. Another thing that I really liked about the book was the world building. It was really good in terms of it being fleshed out. Because a lot of people have argued that the world building for I'm Number 4 is nothing original, and I will agree with that. It's not original. In fact, I would go on to say that a lot of writing is not original. There's technically no such thing as an original thought these days. So, of course, the actual science fiction of it isn't 100% original. But I would say that at least it's thought through. There were a couple of times when I was just thinking, oh, why did he put that in there? Like, he mentions the ancient Greeks a couple of times, how, it's the product of when people made with Loric people, and I thought that was kind of, I've read stuff like that a billion times, and I didn't really think it added to the story, but the effort, you can tell that there's effort into it. Everything has a name, everything has a reason, even if it might not be fully fleshed out the reason, there is a reason. And that's what I like to see in world building. I like for things to be completely thought through, even if there might be 1 or 2 flaws with it. So, the bad, or the not so good, I still like this book, but I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys because that's my job, kind of. So, things that bothered me in this book. Number 1, typos. Typos. Don't have typos. It's a publication. How can you have typos? They're so bad. Okay, so I counted a total of 4 typos that I came across, and that's just ones I came across. There probably are more, and that's never good with a publication. It's never good, never good. It just makes you look unprofessional, and it's just really bad form. But like The very first typo is on the very first page, on the very first chapter. Oh no. And it's blue spelled, it's supposed to be spelled B-L-E-W, and it's spelled B-L-X-E-W. When I came across it, I was thinking, oh wow, did they mean to, like, is this like one of those codes where you pick off all of the different typos and you make words out of them? But no, it's just a typo, and that's not good. So typo is definitely one thing that really bothered me. Another thing that bothered me was one of the characters bothered me, and that is the love interest, because sometimes she seemed like she didn't have a personality of her own. She was just there when John needed her to be there. And when you write things, you really want your characters to be their own standalone characters. And for the most part, she was okay. She had her own life outside of John, but the more she got involved with John, the less of a personality she had, the less she did things. And that was kind of irritating to me, because I like love interests to have their own lives outside of their love interests. There's something else that threw me for a loop. It was the author's voice. And because I'm reading a lot of writing books, I probably am more sensitive to this than anybody else might be, but I thought I would just kind of put it out there. As far as the writer's voice, it just got a little too heavy for me. In some parts, there was one part where it's like this big guy sitting in a chair upside down, and he's like starts describing something, and he's like, I wrote it on my blog. Let me just read the passage for you. I viewed them all through the eyes of a child, and they absolutely terrified me. And every time one of those things bit into me, I could feel its teeth rip the flesh from my body. I could feel the blood pour from the wounds. And that's on page 248. And that kind of bothered me, because the character is like this big beefy guy. He's in a chair, he's being hung upside down by John and his telekinesis powers, and it just doesn't make sense that he would talk like that, because earlier in the same chapter he's swearing, he's saying like, you know, they screwed me over, all kinds of things like that. He was, you know, he had very regular speech. And for him to go off into this elaborate tone of speaking was really bizarre. Not really bizarre, I mean, I wasn't so brought out of the story that I put it down or even thought about putting it down, but it was just something that kind of caught my attention. I was like, wait, the character doesn't really speak like that, so why is he speaking like that? And that was a very, very minor character, so I really was scratching my head at that. Something for writers to look out for. You don't want your voice to completely cover the other characters' voices. So yeah, those are the things that really bothered me. So as far as the rating goes, in case you don't know, I rate with 2 scales. I rate with stars for my reading experience, and I rate with pens for my writing experience. How did I enjoy the writing? So as far as the stars goes, with 5 being the highest and the lowest being 1, I gave this book 4 stars. I thought it was really entertaining. Like I said, read it twice, so it can't be all that bad. It was interesting, the world building was good enough for me, and I had a good time while I was reading it. I would probably read it again if given the chance. As far as the writing goes, I gave it 2 pens. It wasn't terrible, so terrible that I would just sit and point out every single thing that's wrong with it and say this is not how to write. But at the same time, there are flaws in it that are worth looking at and discussing and learning from if you want to be a writer. And also, I thought that the writing wasn't anything I hadn't seen before. I just thought it was okay. And not bad, just not blowing me through the roof. So that was my review of I Am Number 4. Have you read this book? If so, what did you think? I thought it was okay. I'd love to see what you thought. Comment below. And yeah, I'll see you next time with another video. Hopefully another review coming up soon. Bye!